the essence of that word presence. And I've got a couple working definitions we can start with. And of course, as always, words are just pointers and lead in a certain direction and maybe even trigger a certain opening in the mind. But I think it's quite typical that what is presence? Am I really present now? I think I am. But can I be more present? Or maybe I feel that I'm not really fully present. So when I think of being present, I often think about, I think maybe what comes up in people's minds sometimes, and I try to refer to these as well. It's kind of like peak moments. You know, we all know about peak moments in our life, whether it was in sports, whether it was just an intense experience, like you're preparing for a theater part, and all your forces kind of came to bear in that moment. And that could be often seen as, you know, a peak experience, or being in the zone is another phraseology. But when I look back, trying to tag those peak moments, I kind of intellectually would have expected and kind of look for things like that, like moments in sports, either victories or a part where I shined. I caught the football and I ran for that touchdown or what have you. My mind, intellectual mind, goes to trying to find places, things like that. And even classic experiences of being present, like kind of being in awe out in nature, seeing incredible scene or a mountain. And certainly those are times we can really, really remember, or that stand out in our memory. Like, as I kind of glance back, it's not really those types of experiences or times that really land for me strong. That was presence. It was lucid. It was a sharp experience, but was it really present? And so, at least for me, there is much more innocuous times, mundane times, where it randomly that really stand out in my memory. And I could be doing something, again, very, very mundane. And what seems to have made that so vivid and alive, as big as life can be, was some sort of sense focus. It was sensational. Whether it was really, again, almost randomly, peering into noticing a detail of something, and everything just zoned in. Everything came together in that sense experience. Or it might be a smell, and it just kind of ignites the nervous system. So I'm just saying that we can have peak experiences, and certainly those typically were more present when those happen. Or you might have other experiences that you really feel, I was truly present in that experience in that moment. But how do we anchor that? Even if those experiences I had were classic things like running for that touchdown or a sports victory or an accomplishment, then by the nature and definition of that activity, presence is going to be fleeting and few and far between, because those actions, those activities don't happen very often, and maybe less so as we get older. So how do we anchor these turned on experience, operating on a fuller wattage? So that's where the body comes in. That can become a tremendous organic anchor. And we can cultivate and tune and develop the body to be a finer and better antenna or lightning rod for more and more coherent present experiences. In general, our mind and our body has become dulled because of the type of society and type of work that we do. If we kind of compare to hunter-gatherer earlier times, certainly we had the dubious advantage of having to be more present if we wanted to stay alive. Whether it's the saber-toothed tiger or whether it's, tripping off the edge of a cliff or the bison getting the better of us that day. So we had to be more present. But even that aside, the nature of our type of living and our work was more organic, more holistic, included all parts of ourselves. Rather than sitting at a chair in front of a screen, we're using our fingertips and our frontal lobes, our frontal fingers and our frontal lobes. That, of course, presents ourselves. So what was that experience way back then? It was, again, a whole body experience, mind body experience. You're in your experience completely. You're touching the earth every day. You're touching the sky every day. You're smelling the air every day. You are intrinsically opened to the environment and the larger world. And of course, in our society, we're intrinsically collapsed and condensed. So in general, I'm talking about using the body to come back to being out in nature again. Of course, our body directly is nature, comes from nature. So our body becomes the conduit, the transporter, the vehicle to come back to the present moment and to come back to aliveness. I don't think it's too far-fetched of a statement to say in this society, it really cultivates not complete aliveness, not holistic aliveness. There is a certain, we often say in the internal arts, there is truly a certain deadness. So a lot of what I wanted to explore this weekend is time and tactics, and taking the time to sink into the body, to touch aliveness. Aliveness doesn't always mean happy, giddy, jump up and down. It could be pain involved, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, but it's alive. It's living, it's vibrating, it's alive. To me, that's presence. But to use words to kind of maybe appease the intellectual mind a little bit to start with, I think a really good start with presence is that mind-body integration, as Sharon mentioned. And I think that's a really important aspect of looking at mind-body cultivation, because as Cheryl had mentioned, they feed each other. Just a slight aside, when I first started with meditation many years ago, which I love doing and still love doing, and got tremendous insights and love the experience of meditation. But it was always, eventually became quite clear to me it was from here up. And it was ethereal. And it was not anchored in my body, and it did not really translate to real world effect. It was like a really great dream that might make you, if you had a really great dream last night, you feel good maybe for the rest of the day. But 2 days later, 3 days later, has it really changed your life? It hasn't been transmuted and brought into and through the body, hasn't been anchored. So that mind-body connection is that missing key. And so the mind can inform the body and the body can enlighten the mind. It works both ways. So integration of mind to body is, I think, a really good, straightforward pointer to presence, becoming present. I was to mention one or two other ones, other phrases that I'm kind of using right now. Embodied awareness. So I'm trying to find a word or two that holds a lot, combines a lot. Not just being aware. So again, this is part of what I was talking about when I was talking about trying to find times in my past where I was really, really present. There were times when I was really, really aware, even excited, but was I really fully, wholly, completely embodied? Was it a holistic experience? So embodied awareness. Another phrase could be living attention. Again, if I use one of those words, it's not enough. Back to embodied awareness. If I just use embodied, that's not enough. If I just use awareness, it's not enough. Embodied awareness. I use living, that's not enough. You can be living, but not really conscious, not really turned on, alive. You can have attention, but you could be stuck on a screen. And your whole life is numbers on a paper or on a screen. So living attention, not just mental attentiveness, but living attention. So the body is and can be, the body is the doorway to direct living. The body can be the doorway to direct living. And silence is the key that opens that door.